The assailant of 90 Day Fiancé star Sophie Sierra has been conclusively identified. The atrocious assault on Sophie Sierra has dispelled numerous conjectures. A police investigation has verified that the savage assault was perpetrated by her former spouse, Rob Warren. Following the investigation, the police apprehended Rob upon discovering sufficient evidence implicating him. Sophie's admirers are both astonished and indignant regarding the situation. Sophie's family and law police are currently reevaluating her safety. The court's decision about Rob and Sophie's return to normalcy is still to be determined. Sophie Sierra, the cherished star of 90 Day Fiancé, consistently appeared to possess the ability to illuminate a room merely by her presence. Despite her radiant smile, indomitable attitude, and a narrative that motivated countless others, nobody could have anticipated the shadows of her past until the day it confronted her in a profoundly harsh manner. It was intended to be a new beginning. Sophie relocated to a tranquil neighborhood in Los Angeles, endeavoring to reconstruct her life following the distressing and highly publicized dissolution of her marriage to Rob Warren. The cameras had ceased operation, and she commenced writing a narrative about healing, entitled Rising Again. However, it became evident that healing would need to be postponed. On a rainy Friday night in April, emergency personnel were summoned to Sophie's flat following a neighbor's report of screaming and the sound of shattering glass. Paramedics discovered Sophie unconscious, wounded, and scarcely breathing. She had numerous injuries, including a shattered rib, a cranial injury, and several deep lacerations. The news of the incident disseminated rapidly, inciting suspicion and an outpouring of solidarity from followers globally. The preliminary police investigation revealed no definitive suspects. Nonetheless, Sophie's acquaintances promptly implicated Rob Warren. Despite the absence of recent communication between the ex-partners, sources disclosed that Sophie had confided in her close associates that Rob had exhibited escalating instability and obsession in recent months. However, in the absence of tangible evidence, the hypothesis persisted merely as a conjecture. 3 weeks later, investigators acquired CCTV footage from a neighboring alley. A man clad in a hoodie and gloves was recorded entering Sophie's building on the night of the assault. Despite his face being concealed, subsequent research along with cell phone tower data indicated he had been present in the vicinity for more than 2 hours prior to the incident. A search warrant for Rob's flat uncovered disturbing evidence: photographs of Sophie, notes replete with obsessive language, and a concealed collection of her personal items that had disappeared months prior. Confronted with incontrovertible evidence, Rob Warren was apprehended and indicted for aggravated assault, attempted murder, and stalking. He declined to speak during his arraignment, although his silence merely exacerbated public outrage. Sophie's supporters initiated a worldwide movement titled Justice for Sophie, advocating for severe sanctions and enhanced protection for victims of domestic violence. Concurrently, Sophie recuperated both physically and mentally in a private hospital. Her sister asserts that the journey ahead is extensive. She is resilient, yet this has shattered something within her. Our collective effort is directed at facilitating her recovery, not alone from the physical injuries, but also from the sense of betrayal. Prosecutors are anticipated to advocate for the highest penalty, referencing the deliberate nature of the offense and Rob's history of emotional abuse. With the trial imminent, media sources have branded it the trial that shook reality TV. Several previous cast members of 90 Day Fiancé have shown their support for Sophie, recounting their own experiences and advocating for enhanced mental health resources within the reality television sector. Notwithstanding the anguish, Sophie is resolute in her decision to prevent this catastrophe from defining her. In a poignant letter disseminated via her publicist, she stated, "I survived. That is what is significant. I may be fractured, yet I remain present. I will continue to fight, not alone for myself, but for all others who have been harmed by someone they once cherished." The world observes and anticipates, not merely for justice, but for the subsequent chapter of Sophie Sierra, a narrative of survival, resilience, and potentially eventual peace. Sophie occupied a seat beside the window of her little Los Angeles apartment, as the golden rays of the late afternoon sun elongated shadows on the floor. The remote noise of traffic was but a murmur, yet within her mind, a tempest was brewing. Her phone remained silent on the coffee table, yet it resonated with urgency, for she was acutely aware of whom she desired to hear from and whom she sought to erase from her memory.
Rob.
Her spouse. Her affection. Her most significant error? For months had elapsed since their previous face-to-face conversation. 4 months have elapsed since she exited their flat in tears following one of their most severe disputes. Rob's jealousy had escalated to intolerable extremes. Each time her phone vibrated, he insisted on knowing the identity of the caller. Whenever she uploaded a photograph, he alleged that she was after attention. What begun as enthusiasm has evolved into obsession. Nevertheless, Sophie was unable to cease her thoughts about him. He had redeeming qualities. He had been her steadfast support upon her initial relocation to the States. He assisted her in overcoming her phobia of public speaking, motivated her to initiate her fashion blog, and supported her during the loss of a significant brand agreement resulting from internet harassment. During those instances, Rob exhibited tenderness, kindness, and a strong sense of protectiveness. What prompted her to question everything now? Natalie, her closest companion, had been forthright. "You are bonded by trauma, Sophie. That man lacks the ability to love without exerting control." However, only last night, Rob communicated to her, "I have commenced therapy. I miss you more profoundly than you realize. May we converse?" That singular message resurrected all memories. All the positive, all the negative. Sophie perused their archived photographs. The excursion to Big Sur, during which they tented beneath the stars. The unexpected birthday meal he organized for her included all her preferred dishes. Subsequently, the screenshots she captured of their disputes, his irate messages, his frigid silences, the instances he labeled her as ungrateful and spoilt. She perceived herself positioned at the precipice of 2 cliffs, one descending into a perilous yet familiar affection, the other towards solitude and recovery. Unexpectedly, her phone emitted a ringing sound. It was he.
Rob.
She failed to respond. Her fingertips quivered. She opened her diary and wrote, "Today Rob called again. I am uncertain whether he has undergone any changes. I am uncertain whether he genuinely desires me or merely wishes to avoid loss. However, I long for him. I long for him. Am I feeble for contemplating a return?" That night, Sophie envisioned their wedding day. However, this time, rather than advancing towards Rob, she remained immobilized, unable to proceed. He uttered her name, yet she averted her gaze and proceeded into the mist. Upon awakening, she experienced an unusual tranquility. The fog may have signified anything. Not all love tales are destined to endure. Perhaps affection for someone is insufficient when it inflicts pain upon you. At present, Sophie remained ambivalent, trapped in the liminal region between recovery and sorrow. She did not obstruct his number. However, she also did not return his call. Not at this time. Nonetheless, it had been a stressful week for Sophie. Since her arrival in Los Angeles to commence her new life with Rob, circumstances have felt somehow amiss. He seemed aloof, irritable, and frequently retreated to another room with his phone. Sophie attributed it to stress, considering that cohabitation was a significant milestone. However, a woman's intuition is seldom incorrect. On a rainy afternoon, while Rob was showering, Sophie noticed his phone vibrate. She often honored his privacy, however, something urged her to look at the screen. Her heart became immobilized. "Why is he using a dating app while we are cohabiting?" she pondered, her palms quivering. She captured a screenshot and awaited a response. Upon exiting the bathroom, with a towel secured around his waist, Rob discovered Sophie, ashen and wide-eyed, perched on the side of the bed, holding his phone in her lap. "What are you doing with my phone?" he inquired, his tone taut. "I ought to be inquiring of you," Sophie retorted, her voice faltering. "What is your purpose for using a dating application?" Rob's expression transformed immediately. Initially confusion, followed by fury, and then the affected innocence that Sophie had grown to despise. "It is likely antiquated," I must have neglected to delete it, Sophie exclaimed, rising to her feet. Do not deceive me, Rob. It merely alerted you. I observed it. You have a new match. You're still utilizing it. Rob's jaw tightened. Very well. However, it is not as you presume. I have not encountered anyone. I was merely perusing. It is not considered infidelity if no actions are taken, correct? Sophie recoiled like if his words were ablaze. Searching? Are you earnest? Are you aware of the extent of this humiliation? I abandoned my family, my homeland, and everything for you. This is the outcome I receive? Uncontrollable tears began to cascade. Sophie hurried to the toilet, securing the door as Rob struck it forcefully. Sophie, refrain from this action. Kindly engage in conversation with me. Sophie sat on the frigid floor, attempting to inhale. A severe panic attack engulfed her body, heart racing, vision obscured, fingers quivering. She had envisioned confrontations. She had envisioned cultural upheavals. However, is betrayal of this magnitude conceivable? For which she had not prepared. Sophie prepared a compact luggage and contacted a nearby motel. She required distance. Rob inundated her with numerous text messages, incessantly called, and even dispatched flowers to the hotel front desk. However, Sophie now understood that trust, once fractured, is not readily restored. Greetings, esteemed viewers. Welcome to my channel. I am Amelia. I hope your day is going well. If you like the video, please remember to subscribe to the channel.